Hello?
Yo, yo, what's up, dude?
Okay, cool. How's it going?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just got back from the gym, so I'm all hot and sweaty.
Nice, dude. I haven't. I
Yeah, I
need.
got back from school like at 3, and then I like hurried up to the gym, and I was like, I got like 2 minutes to work out, and then I worked out real quick, and then I came back over here. I was
Just
like, I
got.
gotta get my gym in.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you ready to do this? Ready to start that coach listen up?
Yep.
All right. So just kind of give me a little refresher here. Tell me what league you're in and what you would like to focus on today.
I'm in Diamond 1 right now. Keep getting up really high in MMR, and then I have like really bad um, games, and I like lose a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And so basically, I mean, I like to play macro for the most part, and I think I need most of my help in ZvZ right now, as I feel like it's more of a coin toss the way I play it, and I'm not really playing it safe and stuff like that.
Okay. That sounds good. Uh,
Hmm.
I would say the easiest way to get this going would be just to probably look me up in the jam list and then just send me a message directly, and then you can just invite me to a
Okay.
group.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I, right now, am 44.
44 Route 5. There we go.
Nice, dude.
Yo.
Yo, dude. I'll
Uh,
make you a party leader so you can host the
okay.
replay. Ola.
So I hope these work because I remember you were doing some
Yeah.
replays with Chibi, and they were like being all weird and stuff.
If they're from before yesterday, they will probably have to watch them offline.
Oh yeah, damn it. Okay, well I mean I can send them to you on email. You want to do that or
Yeah, you
something?
just drag them into Discord. You can just drag them
Oh,
into
can
the
you?
private
Oh,
chat
okay.
we're in right now, and it'll be super fast. But yeah, so
Gotcha. Okay.
are you struggling with like just dying to all ins a lot then, I guess, since you said it's kind of a coin flip? Or like just the early game you feel like you get behind?
I feel like I get behind. Like I don't know when to make drones, and I don't know when to make army.
Okay.
There's one. Let's see. Where's my folder at?
If it wasn't for you, ViBE, I wouldn't have gotten bronze. Congrats on the bronze. Alright. Do you want to watch this one first, I guess? Or well, yeah, you have multiple now.
Let's see. Where's? I'm hoping. Long Z. Okay, cool. Yeah, those are the two I want to focus on.
Sure. Which
And
one do you want
I have one where I get cheese, but I don't seem to have it right here.
to...
Here's one from a long time ago. I'm pretty sure we can. Obviously, it still applies because it's Legacy of the Void.
Yeah, yeah. Should be good.
Okay.
Which one do you want to go to first?
ZvZ, I lost. That should
Okay.
be the first one I upload.
Sure. Let's do it, dude. I'll just try to keep you updated. It sucks that it's like harder to watch them this way because of the patch,
Yeah.
but it's okay. We'll still make it work, and I'll just
Yeah.
keep you informed as to where I am.
Okay.
All right, dude. All right. Let's see this. I'm gonna run it on ×2 right now, really fast. I'm starting it right now. Are you ready?
No, my computer's spazzing out.
Okay, no worries. I'll wait for you to catch up. But yeah, when I start it, I'll do it on ×2 speed though.
Come on, computer. Okay, I think oh yeah, there it is.
All right, ready to go?
Load.
Oh, never mind. I thought you're like, yeah, there it is. Ready. Oh, never mind.
And here we come on. Last little bit. Come on, load, please. Okay, bam.
All right.
Loaded in.
All right, I'm gonna times two speed it, and I'm gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
Cool, got it.
And I'm gonna go to your vision, like your not your camera's perspective, but just like your vision of the game,
Oh, okay.
because I just want to see how you scout as well.
Alrighty.
But just in general, I want to see how you open it. If you do not go 16 hatch, it is a big mistake. So,
Alright.
like right now, there you go. Oh, okay. You're a pull first kind of guy. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer, and we'll talk about it in just a second.
Okay. I think I was getting cheesed a lot this day or whatever, so I was just like, yeah, I'll just go pool first because I don't want to get destroyed.
Yeah. And then when you take your gas, okay. I'm gonna pause it right now at 125.
Okay.
Okay, so if you actually are gonna play a macro game,
Mm-hmm.
you are actually gonna set yourself really far behind if you do go pool first, because pool first is, I would say, the only real benefit of going pool first is the fact that you're gonna apply early pressure, and that could either be with like a, let's say, like a 12 pool gasless, and you can go to expand, or it would be with like speed link timing really really fast before you even have a natural, and you could do like maybe add in mains or whatever, 13-12, or like the speed link flood with a late expand.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna play a defensive style, you can get honestly as much benefit, if not even further ahead, with going for like a 16 hatch followed up by like a 16 pool or a 16 or a 17 pool.
Okay.
16 hatch then followed by a 16 pool is super super safe, and you actually do larva cap for like maybe like 1.5 seconds if you spin it as fast as you can.
Gotcha.
But it allows you to get really really fast queens anyways for pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also get, like, if you see lings crossing the map, you can also have a bunch of lings queued up ready to go at home.
Okay.
And the way you should kind of look for it that makes it really really good, that I would say is going to help you out a lot, is if you no matter what build you do, when you're first Overlord Scouts, I like where you're going. You're going directly to the natural, which is what you should do on every map. But at around 1 minute and 40 seconds till 1:45, basically as soon as you're at 19 supply, you do not actually spin your larva. Don't even make an Overlord at that point in time. You're going to wait until about like 2 minutes to decide if you want to make an Overlord or not, because what happens is if your Overlord spots a ling move out on you, like a really early pool, you can actually have 3 larvae ready to go right as the pool finishes, and you can make 6 lings out of your main and 2 more lings out of your natural, because if your natural is also a 16 hatch, it finishes a little bit faster, and the natural finishing gives you extra supply, as well, if you're getting all in, to like work with. But if you're not getting all in and you see at 2 minutes, you're like, okay, there's no lings coming at my base, I don't need to make these lings out of mine, you can still just make an Overlord then, and you don't actually really supply block because your natural gives you that extra initial supply to make queens with.
Yeah.
And then you still also don't larva cap either, so it's a safe like hold of your larva for a second there after you're fully saturated on the main. But just going back to what you're doing now, the pull first, what this is going to do is it's going to give you an initial queen faster, and the possibility to make like a spine faster. But you can see right now you're still making drones, so even if you were getting all in, you'd have no larva to work with anyways. Because the only way you'd be able to make lings with a pool first is if you actually cut drones entirely, which would be a horrible economy.
Yeah.
So you get the first queen out faster, but you actually get the second queen out slower, because your first queen will be about like 20 seconds faster with this build than it would be with a hatchery first build, but your second queen will be slower because the hatchery first build builds 2 queens at the same time. So yeah, I don't know, we can go from here, but your build will actually put you behind. Like this pull first build will put you behind in a macro game.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna start in 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Play.
All right, so we just saw lings moving out, and I've really
queen has emerged.
I'm gonna pause right now really quick. So
Okay.
right now I'm at 217.
217.
What we just saw was like 6 lings run out of his base, and we also saw a hatchery at his natural that was not even done yet, and
Mm-hmm.
it's probably like 70% of the way done. And this is
Yeah.
like a huge cause for concern, I guess, for you, because your hatchery is also later than normal because you went pool first. So immediately, if I saw this and I were you, my reaction would be, okay, why is this guy's natural so late? What would be the reason why his natural would be late? And my first thought would be he's got a gas. And
Okay.
if he has a gas, because like otherwise he would just have like 500 minerals in the bank just sitting there for no reason. Which would mean even if you reacted the same way I'm about to tell you to react, you'd still be ahead, even if he wasn't going to attack you. But because his build would be inefficient. But like right now, seeing this, I would say his natural is way too late to be a macro build. This is
Yeah.
guaranteed a gas pool before hatch, so I'm going to react to this by making a spine crawler, just one, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
also going to probably continue to make queens up to like 3 or 4, and then you can also make a bane nest. I like that you're making a spine, by the way, but you can also make a bane nest. I would say probably even before speed.
Okay.
If you're really worried about it, if your plan is to play defensive and to macro, it is totally fine to make a in this situation to make a bane nest before speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is if we look at everyone's vision really fast, if we look at his build right now, it's actually a carapace opener into eventually he's gonna get speed and it's gonna time out together where both upgrades will finish at the same time. It'll do a big timing to you.
Okay.
This
Interesting.
his build is a little awkward because he delayed his natural for really quick gas, which is what this means is he's gonna have a faster timing of carapace lings, but he's gonna have less of them than he would if he would have gone hatch first.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like quite a bit less because not only is it gonna be faster, but it's also less efficient larva. So your reaction to this, I think getting a spine is 100% okay. Even though realistically, if we actually knew he was going for carapace, I would say getting a spine this early is actually not good. But
Yeah.
it's rare. It's rare that people play the way he's doing right now. But you'd still be fine because if you just went for baneling plus a few extra queens, plus a spine, and you could then start saturating your natural, and also you could take your third at a normal time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You would be able to hold this as long as you have well placed banes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could go from your vision again right now. I'm gonna hit play again in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
But yeah, this definitely looks like gas pool before hatch for sure. It's the only reason why his natural should be that late. So the other thing too, if you ever see this right now with your 4 links sitting here at your base, this is when you should actually be wanting to send like let's say 2 of them up to his base and try your best to
Okay.
just get in and see what's happening because based on what you see can tell you a lot. Like if you see a roach at the front door, if you see a baneling nest really fast, if you see like no drones at his natural and like a ton of lings,
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff just you're scouting now. Which is really really good. But I think you're I don't know if you're scouting his thirds.
Oh, looks like I'm just counting his thirds.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pause again here. All right, never mind. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna pause at 402.
Okay.
So just now, your ling from one of his thirds ran up and it saw a spine, it saw 2 queens, and it saw like a main nest, and it also saw 6 lings. But also these lings don't have speed yet.
Yeah.
So now, if you look at it and you go, okay, well his lings don't have speed still, and mine do, and I opened up with circling speed. You could be like, why? First of all, this guy had to have opened up with the gas first, and secondly, why is his speed not done yet? And he has the spine and a main nest, which kind of probably tells you he's most likely not going roaches. It'd be really weird if he was,
Wait, why wouldn't he be going roaches?
because he has a main nest already, and he has a spine.
Oh, okay.
There's a higher like it's still a chance, but there's a much higher, and also you haven't even seen it yet, but there's a much higher possibility that he's not going roaches because if you were to make like if you're gonna do all this stuff, because you got to think about it like this, okay? Roaches are mineral expensive because you got to make a lot of overlords for them because they're supply expensive, and then you also the roach itself is 75 per larva for 1 roach. It adds up pretty fast in terms of how much it costs. And this guy has he's already made tech opposite of a roach warren. He's made multiple queens that you know of. He has 2 which just sitting at the natural. He has a spine. He has the late natural, if I didn't already say that. And all of these things together just add up to a lot of reduced economy for your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And he also doesn't have Zergling speed. That's a big tell because you have it and he doesn't, and he went gas before you did.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were you, I would honestly be thinking at this point now, there's a very high chance he's actually going for an upgrade or he's going for a layer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the way you can kind of tell this or figure this out is do another follow-up scout. Like, you could send maybe like 20 seconds from now or 30 seconds from now, just send 2 more lings at his base. Or just pay attention to the minimap and see, is he going to attack me? Because if I were you, I would be thinking one of two things is happening. Because of how the gas all built up and all the economy and all that, I'd be thinking this guy's either rushing mutas right now, and you could tell that if you manage to get to his gases at like his natural and see that.
Yeah.
Or I'd be thinking this guy's going for carapace upgrade.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions so far?
Aside from doing like a scout right now, like around like this time in the game, maybe a little bit earlier, I feel like I'm pretty bad at scouting later, like especially to see if he's going for like some mutas or some like roach timing or something like that. So is there like a point in time after like this point where I should scout a little bit later to make sure that I know what's going on?
Yeah, you just want to like mostly follow-ups with scouts every little so often, like every 30 seconds or so, or every minute, somewhere in that time frame, to just kind of keep tabs on what he's currently doing. And if he's attacking you over and over and over, it's really obvious what he's doing. Then he's flooding you, or he's setting up for large-scale attacks. But if the game kind of like nothing's really happening, you're both kind of just building stuff, it's definitely a great idea to try and run a couple links into his base and see what's going on. And if you ran 2 lings at his base, there is a very high chance your lings would at the very least get to his gas. And if you were to run at his base right now, and you were to see, okay, with my overlords, I can see that this guy doesn't have a 3rd base, and my lings ran into his natural, and I saw, like, as my link got to, like, towards, like, maybe the side of his hatchery, I saw he has semi-saturated natural plus no gas. And my natural is also semi-saturated with no gas. And his Zergling speed, like, you know, let's just say, oh, his Zergling speed's not done yet. Mine is. We both have Bane Nest. We both have a Spine. What could be happening here right now? The fact that you have a defensive Roachhorn is, I would say, it's okay. If your plan is to make a lot of drones, it's okay. It's maybe a little early, but like the fact that he doesn't have link speed, because you gotta just, I guess, think about everything that adds up the whole time. And the fact that he doesn't have link speed and he does have a lot of gas is a humongous tell. And the fact that he doesn't have gas in his natural, if you were to have spotted that, would most likely tell you there's a lower chance of mutas here.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, it would be just keep following up with the scout as much as you can. Until you like really figure that out. But you have to just think about where resources are being allocated and what the possibility of those are. Because if there was, let's just say hypothetically, this guy was actually pooling roaches. Right now, this guy could probably have like 8 roaches, and or maybe like 6 roaches, in terms of all the other costs he's done. And if he just kept making roaches, and let's say he did a timing at like 5 minutes, he could have like 14 roaches at like 5 minutes. And if you were to scout that at some point and go, oh, he's making roaches, you would have more than enough time to react to that with like, oh, I'm just gonna make spines, or I'm gonna make my own roach warren and try to make roaches as well. And for now, I'll just make link bane spine until I have a roach warren done, or something like that. But
okay.
The biggest thing is just try your best to keep sending lings up into his base if you're confused as to what's going on. And the later their economy is, the more aggression or tech they're going to be going for, and gases tells you what that is. Less gas, more aggression, more gas, more tech.
Okay.
Alright, I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1.
Bam. Okay.
But like right there, if you click on his link, you can already see that it's Carapace. So if you were to click his units right now, you could already figure out what he's doing.
Yeah.
And if you saw this build is, oh, he's going Mass Carapace Slings. There are multiple ways you can handle this. I'm going to pause really quick right now again at 458.
Okay.
What you've done so far is actually not bad at all. You took a really good couple of Bane hits on his army, and you actually whittled down his first push really well. Plus, you have a third that you're trying to secure right now and protect, while your opponent is on 2-base production here, which is not insanely good for the for your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So what you should do right now, these are, I would say, a couple of options you have. Number one would be, if you're going to go for roaches, you need to mitigate the amount of places he can attack you from. And this map is perfect for that because this map has a small natural.
Yeah.
So what you could do here is you could actually have, like, let's say maybe an extra queen, or at the very least a roach in your natural, just like one, and you could wall off your natural aside from that one unit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, let's say in your natural right now, to the left of the Bane Nest, if you built like an Evo chamber and it walled it off right there, and let's say you move the spine down 1 pixel to go to touch the Bane Nest, and then have one little tiny gap above it, and you stuff a queen in there on hold position, and you periodically move it out of the way to let your roaches that are spawning in your main to come out. That is one way you could deal with it, because then all your units could be up at your third base to defend it.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna go for roaches, that's kind of what you have to do.
Okay.
If you want to go for Ling Bane, you do not have to wall your natural, and instead you just have to try your best to be cost efficient, and you know, just like zone out the clumps of units with your Banes, and then just let your Lings finish off whatever trickles through, and or you know, whatever's left over, and just try to hold your bases that way. That'd be another way you could do it, but it does look like you want to go for roaches. So if you leave your natural open in this scenario, there's a good Zerg player will abuse that and will run into your base over and over and split your units up, because speedlings are like 10 times faster than slow roaches.
Yeah.
And your drones will just die over and over and over and over. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit play in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Your forces are taking damage.
Like right there, that wouldn't happen if you had the wall. If you want to go roaches.
Mm-hmm.
There is a couple of, and then okay, you actually found the Banes, which is good. I'm gonna pause one more time again at 6:08.
Okay.
So now the game's getting a little bit more advanced, evolved here. We got a situation in our hands where the Zerg player he's gone for upgraded Lings, and now at this point they're 1-1. 1-1 Ling, like level 1 Carapace Lings only. If you're gonna go Roach, level 1 Carapace Lings don't really matter against Roach, especially if your Roaches are 0-0. It's gonna always take 3 hits to kill them, and it's whatever. But as soon as he gets a weapon upgrade, that makes a big difference, because now his Lings, if they get surrounds on your Roaches, they're actually gonna destroy your Roaches. If you take all it takes is like one time. You take one bad fight, and you're gonna be like hobbling around the rest of the game, being like almost dead the whole time, and then it's gonna make every fight after that really hard.
Really annoying.
So once you kind of identified the fact that this guy is going for an upgrade on Lings, which again, all these things combined should have added that up. When you think about it, you know, you're like, okay, his speed's better than mine, his gas is faster than mine, he's probably going for something weird with that gas, his natural was late, and now you click on a Ling and you go, okay, he's going upgraded Lings. Once this happens, and especially once he has like 1-1, he's really, really invested in this now, it's kind of mandatory that you need something to protect your Roaches. And there's a few options you have here, but number one would be the secure wall in, like we talked about already, and you just have an overwhelming amount of Roaches. It's just a lot of them. Number two would be have Banelings accompanying your Roaches. So if, like, let's say 5 Lings or 4 Lings or 3 Lings at a time just try to kill the Bane or kill your Roaches, you don't gotta blow it up. But if like 20 Lings or 30 Lings just slam into your Roaches, you can then use the Baneling to detonate and blow up a large clump of his Lings, because it's the exact same thing for him. If he loses those, like if he loses one big round of Lings for nothing, like he just runs into a Bane and a couple of Banes blow a lot of it up, then you have so much control of the game again, and you could actually potentially like launch a counterattack and kill his third or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely have a hard time of like trying to realize when I have an advantage in ZvZ.
Yeah.
I'm just like, duh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's because if like you feel like you're getting attacked all the time and you're just defending, it can make you feel like you're just defending until you die, I guess. And it just feels what's the word I'm trying to say here? It feels bad. I guess I don't know. But yeah, like the second option would be Banes. Banes would be a great way to zone out his clumps of lings, and the third one could be Burrow. Burrow is probably the hardest one to do of all, but it's still it's not something I would highly recommend. But if you want to try it, you totally can, because what you could do is if your roaches are in a big ball, and let's say you're like stuffed into your mineral line, and he has 30 lings charging 15 roaches, you could just keep burrowing the outer roach over and over as it gets attacked. And you just salvage all your roaches, and eventually you'll clean up the fight, and you just up burrow after they've regened. And now he lost, let's say, 15 supply of lings, and you only lost maybe like 3 roaches because you might have missed a couple of them.
Okay.
But that is an option as well. But you need some type of option that's going to make it cost efficient. Is basically the point I'm trying to make here.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you're just going to get overwhelmed again and again and again. And at this point too, he's already got the upgrades, which is when ZvZ gets kind of tricky. He has the upgrades already of 1/1, and he has not made really, like, he's made very few banelings against you. So when you think about it like that, you also have to kind of think to yourself, is he still going to mine gas, and what is he going to do with this gas?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
So there, a couple of options could be, if I keep taking fights that are not super efficient, and I feel like he keeps thinning my army out again and again and again, if he goes for, let's say, an all-in of now he adds in a roach horn, which happens to actually be what he's doing, then it's just going to get to a point where you're just never going to have enough to stop him, because it's just going to overwhelm you and flood you and kill you. And then he also has the option to just keep making lings over and over and over, and now if he keeps mining gas, he could do something like Tectomutas. So and then if you're stuck on defense the entire time and you don't really have a suitable economy to deal with that, then mutas come out and just suddenly kill you. Which is where the cost-efficient defense kind of is required, because the only way you're really going to win this kind of a game is if you can cost-efficiently stop what he's doing and maybe squeeze out a little bit more economy than he has. And even though he's flooding you, you'll still crush him. Like you'll like, because you're cost-efficiently killing the first floods, and then out of nowhere, now you suddenly are the one flooding him because he just doesn't have enough money to keep up with you.
Okay.
Because that kind of is how Ling works. Like upgraded Lings work. It's floods over and over. He won't make like 6 of them and stop. He's gonna just spam them until he controls you. But right now your position in this game is not bad at all. You actually have 20 more supply than him because roaches are pretty supply heavy. That's the main reason. But you have, basically what I'm trying to say is you have a suitable army. You have enough units to be able to survive here as long as you play it right. And then you also have way more drones than him. Right now in the drone count, you have 1 more, but in production, you have 10 more going than he does. So you definitely have, I would say, a lead going into this. Or you're in a better spot than he is. And we can resume it now and see how it kind of goes and see your decisions. But whatever. Okay. I'll resume it in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I like that you're making baits. It's pretty required. But again, it's the same thing ago. This natural.
Yeah, I think I meant to block that with the queen, but I just got there too fast.
Yeah.
Oh, that Bane's just sitting there. Oh, man.
All right, so this time now you actually have your natural blocked, which is really good because his lings just got really stupid, and now he's
Yeah,
the drone transfer.
There.
Yeah.
Whoops.
No, it's because you were drone transferring. It's okay. But you just got to be against people who play like this. I'm gonna pause it again at 7:36. By the way.
Okay.
Just if you want to go roaches again, it's totally fine. It's a completely valid option. You just have to make more of a like the urgency of blocking your natural is really high. Like you have to do it, because if you don't, even one run by in your main base could actually end the game. Because if your opponent is like I said, if he's a really good Zerg player, and let's say he identifies that your natural is really weak and he makes you kind of preoccupied in your third base with a smaller amount of lings, and he floods a large amount of lings into your natural because it's open. And suddenly your roaches have to walk all the way back to your main base because he ran as far as you could into your base. And now by the time your roaches get there, you've lost like 12 drones. You've had to run them away as well while they started dying because there was no way they're going to live at all. And your queen died. And now your roaches finally get to the main base, and he starts running around in your main base. And suddenly a new set of lings come to your third and kill your third. Like, he could literally just end the game.
Yeah.
If you let something like that happen. If you let him kind of rubber band you and pull you around your base. And it's the exact same thing as if you, let's say he runs a small amount of lings into your into your main base, and you chase it with the majority of your units because you're like, oh god, I gotta save my drones. And now a large amount of units comes over and overpowers your third, and that's all he does. He just kills your third. But now he's a 3-base Zerg, and now you're a 2-base Zerg. It's still a position that you're behind from now, and it's really hard to win. So the fact that roaches are really slow, but they're durable, if you just block your natural, it's mandatory. It's the most important part about all of this, and it would if you do it, it'll make the game, like, everything else will be like 10 times easier.
Yeah, I definitely prefer to play with the roaches over lings.
Sure. Yeah, just block your natural then every time.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, I'm gonna resume it in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Yeah, now that your third is dead and you have a layer on the way, you actually have Carapace on the way. This position is, I would say, getting a little bit more scary for you now because Carapace isn't really going to help you a whole lot because, like, it's still not a bad upgrade, but I would say weapons is definitely a better one for you here because if you get level 2 weapons, you can still one-shot his Zerglings. Or, sorry, two-shot his Zerglings is what I meant to say. And being able to do that against someone who's flooding lings is a big deal. Plus, it's very common that if your opponent goes for mass lings like this, like I said before, it's either going to be mutas or it's going to be roaches. And in this case, it is roaches. So if he's transitioning to roaches, you're going to go for Carapace. It's just going to kind of bite you in the ass. It's not really going to help you as much.
Okay.
But here, I'm going to go ahead and pause one more time here at 8. I'm actually kind of slower on speed for some reason. I'm at 8:23 right now, sorry.
Oh, I'm at 9:40.
Yeah, my speed got put down to normal. I don't know what the hell's going on.
8:40, you said 8:42?
It's at 8:23.
Oh, 8:20. Oh, damn. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I think I hit my mute button and it's like
Okay,
lower speed. Anyways, in this position though, you're in at this stage. Your opponent's on 3 base. He's getting to a point where he actually has a larger army than you because he's going to be producing at a faster rate than you are.
Yeah.
At this point, the only way you're really going to get back in the game is if you do something cost efficient. And you're actually making you've chosen Hydrogen tech, which I think is fine. That's totally okay. But I don't think going Hydras is the way you should go here. I think going for Lurkers is the way you should actually go. And you should also be making an Overseer. If you're gonna go for Lurker tech, that's fine. But you should make an Overseer and scout his base just to confirm if he is or is not going for a Spire. Because if you were actually in this situation to go, all right, I'm gonna go Lurkers, and he's gonna go mass Bane, Ling, Roach, and he walks into like 6 Lurkers. There's a very good chance you're gonna take a cost-efficient fight there, and take control back of the game again. But if you were to go for like Muta, there would be more of a sense of urgency now where you're needing to get something to stop the Mutas from killing you, and you also are kind of sacrificing map control. So Spore coverage with creep spread would be mandatory there. It'd be really, really important. But yeah, you're never going to win this game at this point. Just making an A-move brute force army, like let's say Roach Hydra, and attacking forward.
Yeah. Okay.
Because right now, you've taken damage. Like you've both kind of set the game up in a way where you're defending, he's attacking, and he actually did damage. So on top of that, you also know that he has a 3rd base because your scout got denied while he threw it down, or you've scouted it in general. You knew that he was taking a 3rd. So knowing that you're a base down and you've lost, it's not like you're a base down because you just decided to go for 2 base tech. You're a base down because you lost your 3rd. So you should feel like you're not in the greatest position here because you've done no counter damage. So in this situation, knowing that you're the only one who's really like he's only lost the units that he's attacked you with, and you've sustained damage while that's happened too. So knowing that you're behind, you have to do something cost efficient, which again is why I say you have to go like if you're gonna go for Hydra Tech, it has to be for Lurker, and not for Hydra.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna resume it on ×2 again in 3, 2, 1.
Go. Okay. Keep thinking my cat's meowing, but it's like a bird in the game.
And then also just for the sake of making your life a little easier with like money, I would say if you make a spine early because you think it's gonna be a good idea, like against someone who goes for like an early pool or something like that. I'm gonna actually pause it. There's some stuff going on, but I got to tell you like 2 points really quick. If you need a spine, you can add in a spine to part of your wall. Like in terms of if it seems like it's gonna be a good idea because you think you're gonna get speedling flooded or something like that. But I would say if you don't, in general, if you don't need a spine or if you already have one, leave it at that. Just don't take one, or just leave it at the one spine. Because adding in multiple spines like you have for like kind of like a door for your base. It's actually just kind of screwing you over because it is more expensive than it seems, especially when you're kind of early on in the game, like this.
Yeah.
And it's not really realistic, just because that if this guy were to, let's say, do like a Baneling bust on you, like your spines are still gonna die super easy, and these spines are also in a way where they're not gonna add a whole lot of DPS to your army, only because they're in the front. They're not in the back, and as weird as it is, if this guy's going for mass lings, and most likely if he's going to do a massive ling bust on you, it's going to probably also have banelings, so your spines are just going to die. And if this guy were to go for like a big roach timing, spines actually would be doing your highest DPS in your entire army, but they would also just die right away because they're in the front, and they would get immediately bursted. So like, in terms of defense, it's kind of misleading as to like where they're placed as to how effective they're going to be, and it actually it kind of screws you over a little bit because of how expensive it gets, and it slows down the rest of your build. So the best thing I would say you could do is if you were to move your Evo chamber up a bit and actually have that completely walled off on the bottom side, so only the top spine would be open then, and you could actually add in another form of tech there, but only like 1 pixel away from the wall. It could be like a roach warren. It could be a second Evo for a second upgrade. It could be just something else that would be there to where only like 1 unit could sit in the little like hallway there, where on hold position, so it would completely block it. But it's not going to make you have to make a bunch of spines and stuff. It's bigger than it seems. The spines are actually kind of screwing you over in terms of putting you further and further behind in this game. But now the other thing I want to talk about, which is why I wanted to pause it as well, is you're doing a roach move out with burrow movement, and I think this is not a bad idea, but it's a cost efficient idea. But once again, it kind of comes down to this whole you need to have cost efficient engagements though, because right now you're totally giving yourself the ability to break his base economically. Like if you, let's say, send like 6 roaches to each one of his bases, there's a very high chance you're going to kill a lot of units. Or if all your roaches go to 1 base, there's a very high chance not only you're going to kill that entire mineral line, but you're going to kill the hatchery itself. But at the same time, if this guy counterattacks you, you're just going to lose the game. Because you have nothing to defend yourself now, really. So if your plan is once again to do play like this, and if this is kind of how you like going about it, lurkers again are. This would be a great situation to actually have lurkers in too, because you're gonna do sneaky efficient damage on your opponent. But if you have lurkers, it doesn't matter if you get attacked as well then, because you'll defend it.
You can just defend. Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna resume it in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it's doing a lot of damage, but and I like that you're also kind of you're trying to maximize the amount of time he stays at his base to defend it by running around and everything. It's in terms of executing a burrow roach attack, this was not bad at all. But if we pause it right now at 11:18, this is pretty much when it's going to get cleaned up now, because your last 3 roaches are there. He knows where they are. He's bringing an army up to come kill it. On your base, on your side of the map, what do we have going on? We actually have a lurker din coming down. I would say it's a bit late though, because you've had a Hydra din done for probably like 3 minutes now.
Yeah.
And you have an army of pretty much 100% Hydras now to defend this, and the idea you're using here, it's not bad. This is actually this style of ZvZ, the way the unit comp that you're going for, and the way you're trying to use it, where you're opening up with roaches, you're trading roaches away in burrow move attacks, and then you're going into lurker Hydra. I would say this is more like masters level play that you're already doing, which I'm not saying you can't do, but it is definitely more intensive on your multitasking to be able to do it efficiently and everything like that. So if you want to play like this, you totally can, and if you get really good at it, your ZvZ will become really good. But yeah, just always be aware of the emphasis on, if you're going to play like this, even if you were ahead or behind, that lurker din is super important now. Because if you're going to throw away your front line over and over to kill his workers, your front line will almost always die, which means your roaches are just going to die in his base almost every time. And if you have nothing to be able to absorb his front line, you'll die when you get countered. So just always keep that in mind. There's a bigger emphasis now for you, if this is your playstyle, to have a lurker din really fast.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna. Also, the other thing too is if you're gonna go for burrow move attacks like this, weapon upgrades are now also way more important, because if you get 2 weapon upgrades and your average opponent has no armor upgrades, 2 roaches can actually, if they hit the drone at the exact same time, can kill a worker.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 3.
It's 3 if they don't hit the same time, because a drone will regenerate. But two roaches with +2 actually do 20 damage each. So if you like focus fire it at the same time, they should be able to kill it.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
And then and then also if you get to a point where you have +3 weapons, it's guaranteed to, no matter what, even if they hit like 1 second between.
3. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
All right. Yeah. Let's resume it in 3, 2, 1.
Oh well, those died. Actually, I think in most of my games, I'll try to just go Roach Ravager straight into Broodlords, and I just kind of skip lurkers usually. I don't know if that's good or not, but I do that a lot.
I would say skipping lurkers is really scary. Yeah, I would say probably don't do that, because here, pause it one more time so we kind of see where you're going here with this and talk about that too. The reason why it's not super good, if you go like Roach Ravager, like you can go burrow move roaches with Roach Ravager into Broodlord. If you do that, your opponent, if they go for a Spire as well, you're gonna die. Like if they go Mass Mutas or something, added like as a tech switch. And then the other reason is why it's kind of weak is if your opponent also goes for Lurker himself and Hydra, kind of like what you're doing this game. Your attacks of Mass Roach Burrow movement can get shut down super hard to Lurker, and Roach Ravager can be kind of like stalled out. Like you'll get in a position where it's like, oh, I gotta try and corrosive bile a Lurker, and then if he moves the Lurker back, it's just nothing really happens, and you're just stuck there for a while. And if he gets Viper and you go Broodlord, he just abducts your Broodlords, and then and then if he gets Hive Tech because he has Viper as well, it stops being a thing where Roach Ravager can kind of like shove the Lurker around with Corrosive Bile, and now the Lurker can shove the Roach Ravager around because they can burrow within like half a second. So it's really scary if you go Roach Ravager into Broodlord, because a good Zerg will just punish you for that. Like every time.
I think I just win, because by the time I get Broodlords, a lot of the players that I play against will have like Stargate and their lurkers out, so it's just like I usually win at that point. But if I'm playing better players, then it won't work.
I get that. I can see that. I would say, honestly, if you really want to make Broodlords part of your army, you might... Okay, this is what I would tell you, honestly. If you're someone who really wants to make Lurkers, Broodlords part of your army, you'd be better off actually going for Roach Ravager with Burrow Move, and you could do the whole opening like that, and you can make a Spire, and you can actually stay on layer longer, and you can start getting weapon upgrades on your Spire simultaneously with upgrades on your Roach Ravager to make them efficient. And if the game develops into something that is like your opponent's going mass Hydralisk, you'd be better off sticking to Roach Ravager and Corrosive Biling him and having a concave like that. But if your opponent goes into a style where he now is very Hydra light and very Lurker heavy, and or like just mass Roach Ravager himself, and you're like, all right, I can keep going Roach Ravager or not, you'd actually be better off going mass mutas there.
Okay, I see.
Broodlords are definitely more of a like a Terran or a Protoss kind of tactic, I would say, for breaking them with like turtle styles. But for Zerg, there's just I feel like there's just too many counters that other Zergs can do to also Broodlord.
Okay.
Because if you go for a Spire and you go for like Muta, there's really no way you're just gonna die. But if you go for Broodlord and or sorry if you just go for Muta instead, you have the ability to do the exact same thing that the Broodlords could, which is just fly over the Lurkers and kill them and kill everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now you don't really have this hole in your build where it's like, oh, I'm gonna die to my opponent's Mutas or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
I think it would be a better thing. And then late game, if the game still goes from there, and now that you have air control with good upgrades, and let's say now you also have the ability to have Viper, then you could be like, all right, now I'll add Broodlords in.
Okay, I see.
So it's not like you can't go Broodlords, it just says don't go Broodlords first, because then you have this massive hole in your build that could be abused.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I'm gonna resume it in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
And in this stage, I would love it if you actually placed like 1 or 2 Lurkers at your side expansions, and then
that
you
would definitely be helpful.
yeah, and then you could like move out with your main army. That way, because like right now, if we look at your vision, it's actually really minimal. You don't really have an Overlord spread, and you don't really have creep spread going on. Here, I'm gonna pause one more time again because fights are going on. So right now you're kind of blind to the map, and I don't think creep spread is the most important thing here in ZvZ. It's especially if your goal is late game to go for a Spire.
You home?
Yes, I'm home, Mother.
You going to work to school tonight?
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry.
No worries, dude. It's not super important to have creep spread, but it is really important to have vision. So you want to have like vision, at the very least of some kind on the map, to be like, all right, I got Overlords seeing the top side, the bottom side, because right now what could happen here is if you move out in the middle of the map, this guy could very easily wipe out one of your side bases if he has just enough to overpower a couple of spines. So it's just super scary for you right now, I would say. And then like I said before, a great way to deal with that as well, especially if your vision's kind of lacking here, is just a couple of Lurkers, like 1 or 2 at your side bases, to where even if he does do a counter, you're totally fine.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna resume it in 3, 2, 1.
All right.
And then as well, if the big thing with Lurker 2 is you definitely want to make sure you always have that mindset of you're going to go for a Hive Tech upgrade. Because the ability to push, like the ability to defend your opponent doesn't really change a whole lot with or without an upgrade. But with that upgrade, the ability to actually push your opponent changes drastically.
Yeah.
Because you actually have the ability then to like lure your opponent out of position for just a second, and then shove Lurkers in his face, and suddenly it becomes way scarier because you get your first volley off way quicker now, and the way lurkers work, obviously, is everything just dies super fast. So that'd be good. I'm gonna pause again because I actually was gonna recommend what you're already doing. I like this. So you're going for lurker, or you're going for Nidus, which is it's a great way to continue to attack your opponent if you're stalemated, like kind of like the way you kind of are, where you're both kind of just like, I'm gonna crossbow you, no, I'm gonna crossbow you. We're both gonna run around. It's going for a Nidus is great. I would love it though. This is a great tactic to add into your Nidus, which is gonna like guarantee screw your opponent over. Imagine if your Nidus worm had like 4 lurkers, okay, plus the army it does, and those 4 lurkers, they were to run to into his main base under where the spawning pool is. Like we're talking like a little bit above where the ramp is, not directly on the ramp, but like a little bit back from it.
Yeah.
So if your opponent decided, oh shit, I gotta go defend my main base now, I gotta run back through and try and stop what's happening. Yeah. He has to run into a choke point, which your lurkers are set up in a spot to where they're going to cleave the crap out of that choke point.
Okay.
And you're gonna, any unit that actually makes it through that choke point is gonna be near dead, and a lot of units will die coming through that choke point, which means you're gonna get this insanely juicy lurker cleave in this situation, and you're also gonna guarantee you kill everything in the main. It's basically gonna end the game if your opponent takes the bait and just runs into his ramp to try and save it, because it's also a terrible feeling as if you were the red Zerg right now to be like, oh, he's zoning me out with lurkers and he's also killing my entire main plus my tech. It'll just die. Like I'll just let it die because obviously that sucks as well.
Yeah.
So I like the Nidus. It's a great idea, but if you add lurkers in, it's going to be 10 times more powerful.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'll resume it in 3, 2, 1. All right, so now I would say this is kind of, I'm going to pause here at 1646. This is kind of that stage where you did damage to him, and it was almost enough to kill him, but it just wasn't quite enough. And then it kind of turned into this, like, I'm going to bleed my army out situation where it gets maybe a little too aggressive for that point in the game. In the sense that you did some attacks, you killed some stuff, but you lost everything, and then you followed up with more attacks that were kind of trickling in, and eventually got to a point where he was doing the exact same thing, but it was on his side of the map, so he was starting to slowly overpower you. Yeah. And now it's kind of turning into it's like a seesaw. Now it's kind of tilted to the other side, and now he's doing the same thing to you. A lot of players fall into this trap where they're like, I gotta kill him, I gotta do as much damage as I can right now, which makes you actually had a bigger lead than you did a second ago if you just didn't take that fight.
Which fight? You're talking about the one that is third or fourth?
The follow-up. So, like, when you Nidus'd his main, that was fine. Yeah. When you attacked it, when you tried to burrow push forward with your lurkers, that was fine. That one was also fine. But then you followed up with more attacks after that and kind of bled out, like, maybe 20 supply in his base again on the middle one, like the fourth base. And then that allowed him to have this ability to shove back across the map. And we can see that his shove is also, like, 4 of these 5 Ravagers are about to die. And he's got 6 Hydras with it and a couple of Zerglings. Like, this push is really weak. So I imagine the exact same thing is going to happen to him that just happened to you, where you're also going to kill this army. And then it would be, again, in your best interest to not commit further and lose your units. Because right now, what you definitely need to get going is you definitely need your upgrades to get going. You definitely need, like, your Hive Tech Lurker upgrade. You could get your 3-3 going. And you could also make sure your economy is running smoothly. And right now, it currently is. But it also does look like you're about to also lose some drones on your bottom middle base. So the best case scenario here, for, like, going from here right now, I would say the best thing you could possibly do is grab those drones and run them away. Kill this army in front of your base. Like, just shove it away. Kill it if he stays, or just shove him out and get rid of him. and then get rid of these lings as well, and then make lurkers while getting your upgrades, and just chill for a second, and just let your army have some time to build up, because and then you could still poke him with cost efficient things, but do not fully engage him, because already, if we look at it like this too, if you were to have done what we talked about earlier when you did your first move out, and let's say you left like a couple of lurkers in your side bases, this counterattack that's happening on your bottom base would already have been dealt with. And also like this attack that's pushing you right now as well, if this were to have happened like this as well, hypothetically, there's a very high chance you could also have a lurker defending nearby that you could shove into this army as well and get rid of it.
Yeah.
So like just preparing the mid game and early game in a way in ZvZ where it's like you're kind of telling yourself, I'm going to kind of reduce the power of my main push right now to increase the power of my map control and my well-rounded defense, so that if this game turns into a messy game where we're both kind of throwing shit everywhere, the ability to me not even be looking at something and still defend it is still way better than what he'll do if he doesn't prepare for something like that. It just puts you in a situation where if the game does not end with your first push, which a lot of times it won't, your follow-up push is going to be way better, because you're not going to have to deal with so many problems in your base all the time.
Okay.
It just like alleviates your multitasking to focus on just rebuilding an army and do it again, and get ready for the next round, basically. All right, I'm gonna.
It's raining. You might want to go cover your motorcycle.
Okay.
I'm gonna. I'll resume it in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, like right now, definitely fix the economy for sure. And that would be huge. And I do think, I totally agree with what you were saying too about the Broodlords, about how in your league right now, a lot of times it will kill your opponent, but yeah, just, I'm getting scared looking at that Greater Spy right now. Because if he goes Viper, you just die.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I played this other ZvZ that lasted like 50 minutes because I got a really big lead, and then I went straight into Broodlord, and then he just like turned with Lurker, Hydra, Viper for like 30 minutes, and I couldn't kill him.
Yeah.
I was getting really pissed off. I was like, damn it, what the hell do I do?
Yeah. At that stage where one of your opponents is like being insanely defensive, where they just basically never move out and they have this like ultimate defense against the ground, then yeah, I agree that at that point going for a Broodlord addition to your army is okay. It's just even then you have to be very careful about Viper, because it's just so easy to abduct Broodlords into either a bunch of Hydras or Spore Crawlers, and then your Broods insta die. I do like that you're adding spines at the very least. If you added in like I said, a couple of lurkers to the sides of your bases, it would be insanely good. But the spine addition is still also very, very important, because there's been like 5 counterattacks this game that you would have taken a lot of damage to that you're not. All right, I'm gonna pause right here really fast. So I'm at 2034, by the way.
Okay.
So right now, you engaged a little, I would say, impatiently here. The way you kind of did it was you engaged with your Hydra Viper, and you burned some blinding clouds on his army to try and attack, and he just kind of backed up. And your Broodlords weren't there either, so it's a situation where like you're kind of blowing your Viper energy before it's really useful, I would say. And then you also, I don't know, it's just kind of a preemptive on the Viper usage. The best way to do this army would be guaranteed to leave the Viper just kind of chilling and have the Broodlords a move here, and then depending on what he tries to defend this with would depend on what spells you should use with your Viper. Okay. Because if you don't just shove your Hydras forward, you got to always keep in mind a Broodlord has a lot more range than a Hydra. It actually has 4 more range. So it's really easy to pick his army apart while not having to. Your Broodlord's not really being forced to take a fight against like getting hit basically. Because if he shoves his Hydras forward, you can very realistically shove your Hydras forward and fight back. So the best way to do this would be just leave your Broodlords kind of A-moving and just kind of picking off everything they can, the closest enemy target, and you're going to keep doing more damage over time. And then if he brings something to defend, like a couple of units that are going to kill your Broodlord, like maybe, let's say it's like 2 Corruptors out of range, I would say Abduct would be a better situation there for you than anything. Because the Corruptor, in terms of his defense here, I would say the Corruptor is your only real threat right now. Because Broodlords can kill everything here except Corruptor.
Okay.
Like in terms of like, the Corruptor will actually kill your Broodlords really fast as well. And the other thing too is patience is really important here too, because you only have 5 Broodlords, and 5 Broodlords is going to take a long time to kill, enough to really push into this. So if you kind of preemptively do a lot of shit and try to rush this fight, 5 Broodlords is going to take a while. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having the Broodlords if you push the fight too aggressively with the rest of your army. And lastly, I would say I'm just trying to make try and say things here that are not going to be ridiculously hard to execute. But if you had like a couple of overseers here, which you are bringing right now, if you look back at your 4th base, you're bringing 4 of them up right now, it looks like. But if you had a couple of like changelings running around his bases, on his outer bases, just to kind of see what was going on, you might be able to spot some weaknesses, in the sense that you could send like maybe 6 Hydras or like 8 Hydras over to a side base, and you could just poke it, because it goes well with the idea of being patient. Because if your main army here with the Broodlords is going to kind of poke, but it's not going to really charge, you could also poke his other bases with other units, and if he comes to defend it, you can always just back up.
Okay.
But yeah, this is going. I'm kind of giving you tips here on how to use the Broodlords, when I do think ultimately you should probably avoid them in ZvZ.
Okay. I'll probably just do that because I really want to get up the ladder.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes then. I'm gonna hit play right now.
All right.
So you can definitely tell your opponent is a little uncomfortable at dealing with Broodlord, because the amount of resources he's spent on Corruptor, I think he's made probably like 24 Corruptors now at this point. If he would have just made like 4 or 5 Viper, he could have just each Viper can abduct twice, and he could have abducted 5 Broodlords, and that fight would have just become mass Hydra versus Hydra Lurker Viper.
More Viper, more Broodlords. So I mean, should I just make Vipers instead of like or like a Lurker Hydra Viper? Is that what my composition should be?
Yeah, if you want to play for this, like if you like the style of burrow movement roaches into Hydras and Vipers, if that's overall how you like playing, that is a very top level way to play the game. Okay. But your goal here should definitely be, once you're Hive Tech, not to go for Broodlords, but instead to go for the Evolve Adaptive Talons for the Lurkers, the Hive Tech upgrade, and then still use Lurkers. Okay. Because you have 2 ways to fight this, to play those fights out. And the first one is, you have an Overseer spot where you're going to go, and you go, oh, my opponent has Lurkers. And if there's a ton of Lurkers there, you can shove your Lurkers forward while blinding clouding his. That is totally an option you could do. Or if there's some Lurkers there, or you just want to guaranteed get some damage, but not like massive damage, you can just you can just abduct him, abduct into your Hydra line, and then you'll instantly pick off like 1, 2, 3, 4 Lurkers die. Blinding Cloud is the more greedy option for sure, because it requires your opponent to sit in it to die, and your opponent could totally be like, "Oh, you're blinding clouding me. I'm just gonna up burrow and back up." So, and if you burn your energy like that, you're going for like that big, I'm gonna kill all your Lurkers at once kind of a tactic, which is greedy, and it doesn't always work. So it's kind of like opportune damage. I would say the best time to blinding cloud would be a situation like this. If you can kind of, if I can paint this picture well, I guess it would be, imagine if your opponent was defending a hatchery and like an expansion, and you wanted to kill this expansion, if his lurkers were right next to it, and you know that even if you blinding cloud his lurkers and they somehow up burrow and run away, and you don't really kill any of them, you still kill that hatchery. That would be that would be a great use of blinding cloud. But let's say it's in the middle of the map, and you're like, all right, I don't really think I should just shove in there, and he also might even have vipers too. I'm just gonna abduct him now because it's gonna guaranteed get me like I'm gonna net some damage here, but I'm not gonna put my army at risk in doing it, and I'm also not gonna waste all my energy in the sense that he might avoid it. So if it's just like you're only fighting for like literally a piece of grass, like there's no actual base here, there's nothing important here. It's just some part of the map. Abduct would probably always be better there.
Okay.
I'm gonna play right now. And I will give you a tip though, because I'm not gonna say broodlords are like awful. It's just not good to start with.
Yeah.
But if you get to a stage where you do have broodlords, I would honestly almost say that infestors combined with viper, which is really hard to do, but that would be amazing. But if you only had one or the other, I would actually say if your composition is going to be Hydra broodlord, infestors would be better than viper, because you could actually snare the corruptors to a point where they can't actually keep up with the broods, and the hydras just kill them while they're snared.
Okay.
Because parasitic bomb will never kill the viper before the corruptor, or the parasitic bomb will not kill the corruptor before the corruptor killed the broodlord, especially if this guy splits them up a little bit. But fungal growth will eliminate the ability for the corruptors to even hit the broodlord altogether, and then you kill a lot of them with Hydra.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. ZvZ can definitely get super messy. This matchup.
Yeah, super messy.
But you are losing this game because this guy is just kind of over-making Corruptor, and he's just dive-bombing your Broodlord, and your Broodlord keep dying. And then going Ultras right now would be the worst idea for you because he has Lurker, and Lurkers are a hard counter to Ultra. Especially when combined with Spore, because the Spore is going to get rid of your detection, and then the Lurkers just cleave the shit out of the Ultras.
Yeah. I was just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Ultra freaking harass, I guess.
I'm gonna go ahead and
I'll just start like randomly making tech units to like try and figure something out, to try and do something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna pause one more time for you, and I'm gonna kind of give you an idea about what you can do. Like your overall game plan. This is what I think it should be. So you open up with Lingbane defensively with your standard, just like expand, like 16 hatch, 16 pool, whatever. 16 hatch, 16 pool would be perfect for you if you're worried about dying to early pressures. Because we already talked about it before. It'll just help you a lot in that scenario. And then you can go for a third on Lingbane. And once you have a halfway to 2/3 of the way saturated natural, we're talking roughly around like 10 drones or like 12 drones, somewhere in that realm of workers, you can start a Roach Warren. And you can turn your build from Lingbane into just Roaches for now. And then you can go into Roach Hydra Lurker once you're on tier 2, and work on saturating your economy as the game allows you to, depending on how aggressive your opponent is or whatever, and try to keep tabs on him. If your opponent goes for a ground army, 100% totally valid to go Roach Hydra Lurker with burrow move on Roaches. And the game can kind of become a situation where you just repeatedly try to slip Roaches into your opponent's base and defend your base with burrow move, or with burrow Lurkers and Hydras, and spread them out and try to have like an Overlord spread to show you where you're going to get attacked from. And then only ever really launch a counterattack in one of two ways. Number one is your opponent just attacked you and lost a big fight because he ran into Lurkers, and now you can launch a counterattack. That is a great time to go attack your opponent, and you could probably win the game there. Number two would be if your opponent is constantly being ripped around his base over and over and over and over by your burrow move Roaches, and you're like, okay, this guy never attacks me, and he's just constantly busy dealing with my burrow move Roaches. A great way to launch an attack on him that's going to almost always get you guaranteed damage, that's not going to put you at risk, would be kind of like the Nidus you did. Just let's just say hypothetically he's got 4 bases, you have 4 bases, and you take Burrow Roaches to his 3rd and 4th, the 2 bases that are both the furthest away from his main base, and you have 6 Roaches in each attack, on each one of his bases. And now you see, okay, his army's coming here to defend this, and I have an Overlord on the side of his main that I'm now going to make a Nidus with while he's out of position from his main base to even defend this. And your Nidus first loads like 4 or 5 Lurkers, and then it loads like 16 Hydras. It's not even your whole army. It's just a chunk of your army. This would be like 40 supply. And then, or like 46 supply or something. And then you unload into his base, and your Lurkers immediately just beeline to that ramp like we talked about. And then your Hydras are just killing his tech, killing his tech, killing his tech. And now, from here, it'd be a perfect point to control your opponent again in the way where you could go, all right, how good is this attack going to do? And if my opponent attacks up his ramp, and he loses everything, I can now move my entire army out of my base, either through the Nidus and just reinforce even more, or I can just auto-attack his 4th base or 3rd base or whatever with my other part of my Hydra army with some more Lurker. And I'm good to go. It could all be in the same control group even. You could just be like, go attack it, and then as soon as you're in range to attack it, just burrow the Lurkers there, and it's fine. Because you know, no matter how it goes, you've just crippled your opponent, so it's easy. It's an easy fight now. So it's going to be very likely you're going to win here. Or if your opponent defends it and he does not die, well, then it turns into, like, let's say he defends it really well. He completely shuts down the Nidus, and he completely shuts down your Roaches. Then it becomes more of a patient game, where you should try your best to have vision of the map through either Overlords, Changelings, or try to creep spread. There are many options you have as Zerg to have vision, and then you could just kind of like try to play the map in a way where it's like, all right, I need to make sure I don't get caught out of position, and if I see where my opponent is, who knows, maybe I can catch him out of position. And the best way you can catch someone out of position is if you see a base that looks like it's easily killed, the way the Lurker should always be used is it should be used as a zoning tool. Lurkers should never be used as a DPS tool. It should always be used, even though they are, but it should be used as zoning. So I'm going to give you an example right now. Right now I'm at 26:31 in time, by the way, just to make sure you know where I am.
Okay.
But if we look at middle left, and we see your opponent has 4 expansions along the left side of the map, and we're looking at the very bottom left one. And I were to ask you, if I were to say, all right, I want you to attack this base with Lurker, Hydra, and your opponent's army right now is up at his 3rd base that has like 3 spores at it, like to the bottom right of the main, with like 14 out of 8 drones. Anyways, if his army's up there, and I were to say attack this bottom left base, like where would you plant your Lurkers in this situation?
Attack the bottom left base?
Yeah, if you were to attack the bottom left base with Lurker Hydra, where would you put Lurkers?
Maybe like right on that high ground next to that creep tumor.
So if like under the Overlord is what you're saying, like where that big like crystal diamond thing is.
Actually, probably. I feel like next to those bushes would be a little bit better. A little bit more to the right of those bushes.
Like
Maybe.
near the rocks.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to attack this base, I would say the perfect place to put your Lurkers would actually be between the gas and that big white crystal pylon thingy, like kind of like to the left of the creep tumor.
Oh, okay.
Like just in that open area, because it's what it would do is it would zone out your opponent from defending it.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
And then you do it every time. So no matter what you're gonna attack, you always use Lurkers to shove and zone. Because what you want to happen is you want Lurkers to create this area all the time, where if your opponent wants to go to an area, but you cut it off with spikes of death, basically. But the Lurkers themselves are not the units that should be killing buildings and killing stuff like that. They should be zoning your opponent. And they should be doing it every time. You always take as much ground as you can with Lurker and zone, no matter where you are, in every situation. And it'd be the exact same thing if with like your defense here, like he's attacking your bottom middle base, and if you were to defend this, I would say the best place to put your Lurkers as well, again here, if you were going to defend, would be 100% put your Lurkers next to your spines at your base that's not dead yet, the one kind of like to the right of the base that just died, because what happens there is Lurkers are not, you're not shoving Lurkers forward into his army and trying to kill him, you're zoning him. It's easier, I feel like most people understand zoning easier when it's on defense, but it's harder to understand it when it's on attack. Because I think a lot of people get in the mindset of lurkers should be killing buildings when they really shouldn't. They should be zoning your opponent from being able to defend his buildings.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because like hydras and roaches or whatever else, they're gonna still crush the base like within a few seconds. Like it's gonna go down real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so that should kind of be like the game plan for you. And then if the game can still not end with all that stuff we just talked about, and it keeps developing more and more and more, I'm 100% okay with your idea of adding in Broodlords, as long as you also combine them with spellcasters. Because it could be a great way to switch the game up in a way like this, okay? Let's just say, I'm going to give you one example, and I'll kind of make you try to understand what I mean here. Let's say you're both kind of like getting to that point where neither one of you really has a bank because you're spending all your money, and you chose to spend your bank on mostly Hydra, Viper, Lurker, but now instead of making 20 roaches to go attack his base with Burrow Move, now you made 8 Broodlords, and you're done. That's all you made. You didn't make any Corruptor, you didn't make anything else, you just have 8 Broodlords, but you also have a few Infestors or some Viper, or both, even, if you're able to handle that. Obviously it's really hard, but yeah. Now your opponent goes for... He's like, oh, he's going Broodlords. All right, I'm going to make... if it reacts like someone like this, he's like, oh, I'm going to make like 24 Corruptors now. That sounds pretty good to me. And you're like, all right, cool. Like, even if your Broodlords die, if you don't just keep remaking them over and over and over, if you force your opponent to spend like 3 times the amount of money that you just did on an army that counters 1 unit, basically. Like, what are the Broodlords doing? They're trying to kill his base. What are his Corruptors doing? They're trying to counter just the Broodlords. So you forced out like 3 times the value out of him for what you spent into something. And then even if you fuck it all up and it's like, oh well, I killed the Corruptors but all my Broodlords died, which is bad for you. Obviously, it's still a good trade though, because you made him spend way more money than you did, and now you still have the majority of your army focused on Hydra, Lurker, Viper, which can still like push and stuff like that and still win the game for you. And now his army will be like substantially weaker. And best case scenario is you force out a shitload of Corruptors because you went for some Broodlord, but you didn't go crazy into Broodlord. You still have a lot of Hydra and stuff like that. And let's say he comes forward and you bait the Broodlord where it's like, oh, I see him coming because I have a Changeling over here. Like I'm gonna attack his 4th base. So before I attacked it, I sent out 3 Changelings around the 4th base to see where he's gonna defend from. And my Changeling picked up a vision of 20 Corruptors flying at my Broodlords. So I pulled them back preemptively, and he dove into Spellcasters and Hydras, and now all of his Corruptors died.
Okay.
Now you could be like, now I can just move forward freely and with my Broodlords, and I just win the game. So that's also like that kind of a situation would be totally great. Obviously, it's easy win. But whenever you attack to make situations like that happen, definitely something else that I kind of just said right there, but I'll say it one more time because it's super important, and I didn't really see you do it that much this game. Is definitely scout forward when you attack someone with like any type of vision, like a Changeling.
Okay.
It would help you a lot at controlling fights better with knowing where things are and how they're coming at you. And yeah, that could kind of be how you play the game. And then yeah, and then just don't feel like not Roach. Just don't feel like Hydra, Lurker, Spellcaster is weaker than Broodlord, because even if you get in a situation where your army is maxed out on Hydra, Lurker and your opponent went Broodlord, but you have Viper, if you have Lurkers burrowed under your Hydras, it wipes out the Broodlings every time they spawn, so you don't have to worry about that. And you only then have to worry about the auto attack of a Broodlord, which a lot of times what that means is a Broodlord attacks like once every second and a half, or like almost like a 2-second attack speed. It's a 1.79. So every 1.79 seconds, 1 Hydra will die if your opponent has Broodlords, because that's about the rate at which he'll kill them. And if you have, let's say, like 25 Hydras and like 5 Vipers, you could just abduct all of his Broodlords, especially if you're over Lurker, and all of his Broods die. And if he tries to protect them with anything else, all of his ground units die. So, yeah, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, just don't feel like you're too committed to Broodlords every time in ZvZ. It's not a bad tool to mix in, but it is a bad thing to overuse.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just let it play out now. I just hit play and
Okay.
gonna watch the rest of it here, see how you kind of do it.
All right. When did you say exactly you want to transition to rotate after the opening?
About like half mineral light saturation on your natural.
Okay.
Like maybe a little bit above half. I would say like 10 to 12 drones would be ideal because you're not going to be broke when you make roaches then.
Okay, so you like make the roach horn at like that time, like halfway by 10 to 12 drones.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only time you'd ever want to make the roach horn earlier than that, ever, is only one situation, and it would be if your opponent goes for a roach all in on one, like 1.5 or 1 base. Where it's like a really fast roach all in. Then you could totally make a roach horn defensively earlier than normal. But if it's not that, always do it at like 10 drones in your natural. Yeah, you're just getting in this game. It's getting hard because the lurkers are running your hydras out.
Yeah. And then I sent these ultras here to their death.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I was saying. Lurkers are just so good against ultra because they can't even see them.
Yeah.
Especially if you were to go for an army that's like maxed ultras and you make like 8 overseers or something with it, if this guy just makes lurker spores kill overseers so fast. And then you just lose detection, and ultras just all die to lurkers as they try to like run around the base.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultras sadly are a terrible unit in ZvZ.
Which sucks because I like ultras.
Yeah. Ultras were good before lurker existed. Now they're kind of crappy. Lurkers are just too good. But yeah, I don't know. It's the replay's over now. But I feel like we kind of covered most of the stuff in that game. If you have any questions, make sure you just let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we can go into another one. Which one would you like to
Actually, I have to go to school right now.
No, you don't, dude. No.
I do.
School can wait, bro.
I have to go to school.
You're in school right now, dude.
Like, this is more interesting school, but I do.
All right. So no other questions then? If you gotta head off.
Let's see. What's what's a like good telltale sign to like know when you're okay in rounds and know when you should really pump out like some units or like roaches and stuff?
So
because I always get confused in when I should do that.
That comes
because in the next game I make like maybe like 4 or 5 roaches and then I start to like make more to go attack, and then he defends and he still has more drones. What the hell?
Okay, yeah. So there's 2 ways to do it. One way is you scout for base counts. You want to see how many bases your opponent's on, and you want to see how early they take them. Which is exactly, if you remember in the beginning of the lesson when I was talking about the gas timing of the guy's base, it's like, why his natural is so late, and yours was even late because you went pull first. But that already tells you that his economy is less and his units are more. Like, he's doing something power-wise. But the best way, if the game gets to a point where you're both on same base counts, and you're in that uneasy phase where you're like, I'm not really sure what he's doing. The best way to figure that out is to scout his base with Zerglings, because this is the way you gauge what you're looking for. Look at your drone count right as you're going to do it. Be like, all right, well, I've been making drones, and I have 10 drones. I'm going to scout his base, and he has 2. Like, what is he doing with his larva then? So you got to be like, all right, he might be hiding units. I really need to pay attention to this. There's maybe like he's saving. How much larva does he have in his hatcheries? Is he waiting? Is there a bunch of eggs spawning? That is a big tell right there. How much larva he has and how much drones he has. So always, like, you really need to look at that to really know if you're going to be okay or not. Because if your opponent has the same drone count as you and you've been making drones, that's how you gauge it. You're like, oh, he's macroing. He's got like maybe 8 Zerglings. We're good. And the other way to kind of gauge what's going on as time goes on, you need to repeatedly scout like this, and you can gauge how fast he expands compared to how fast you expand. The slower someone expands, the more likely the more gas they have, and because there's no reason to delay expansions otherwise. Otherwise, he just doesn't know what he's doing. And then the vice versa, if they have fast expands or whatever, again, it comes back down to drone count and larva count. So just pay attention to that. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna say it again, but then I want you to like memorize this because this is it's legit gonna help you a lot if you do that. So, later bases, more gas means more tech or possible all in. That's huge. Memorize that shit. It's really big. And then
so later base equals more gas or more tech.
Yeah, because well, like later base means more gas, and then if you think about it, what can you do with gas? You can either all in someone with mass units like Banes and Roaches, or you can tech really hard and go like Mutas or something. And that always happens if their expansions are late.
Okay.
And you gauge the expansions off your expansions, because if you're playing standard and you go for like a 16 hatch to open, and then you take like a third base at like maybe 20 or like 30 supply or something like that, like it's just a super standard overall build. If his expansions are super late, you got to be like, okay, you're definitely gassing harder than me. And then just the second thing is if the base counts are similar, scout him even then. Don't be like, oh, we're fine. You still got to scout him and be like, are you saving your larva on other things or are you droning? So at that stage, you scout drone counts. Always go for the mineral lines. Do not waste time attacking like a queen with like 2 lings or something. Try to just get in his base, run, see drone count, look at your drone count, and compare. You always that's how you always gauge as other Zergs, is you compare it to your stuff. Every time you scout someone's natural, go, okay, mine's 80% of the way done. Yours is 30% of the way done. This is a pool before hatch.
Extra larva?
Well, yeah, like he's definitely going pool before hatch because it's so fucking late. And the pool before hatch gives him options to be like, I'm gonna speedling flood you. I'm gonna go for something with faster tech. Yeah, those are the big ones in ZvZ to understand what's going on. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, and then one more thing. When you're teching into roaches, would you want to do 1 evo or 2 evos, or kind of?
To start, 1. I would say if you're gonna go for Roach Hydra, which is again totally fine, the best thing you can do is go for 1 evo chamber and try to get +1 weapons while you're also getting like Roach speed. And once you have +1 weapons kind of done, you can start a second evo and you can get +2 weapons along with +1 carapace. That's a super solid build, and the reason why that's so good is because it helps a little bit against ground units, like ground versus ground armies, but it's amazing against people who go mutas.
Okay. Because
it makes the bounce really weak against Hydras, and it makes Hydras perform like 10 times better against muta.
So you said after the +1 attack, get the hydrogen and...
Yeah. After +1 weapons on Roach speed, you can throw down a second evo and a hydrogen. That's totally fine.
Okay.
And then if your plan is to go for bro movement roaches a lot, immediately take a lurker den when the hydrogen's done.
Okay.
And then do not go crazy on hydras either. Like we're talking, you can max out on roach and lurker, and this lurker could be like 8 of them, and then the rest is max roaches with drones.
Okay.
And then once you max, you harass, and then you start because this is a harass build, and lurkers are how you don't die with this. And once you harass him and you start losing roaches here and there, you can start remaxing in hydras. That's how you would do it properly. Because if you make hydras way too fast, it's way too expensive to also make lurkers. Like you can't do both. You would just die.
Okay. And do you want like 60 or 70 drones?
With your style, like 70 is fine.
Okay.
60 is a bit under. Because you're playing for the end game, so you're not playing for like a timing.
And if I'm doing like a huge roach timing, then you usually want, I'm guessing, more roaches than drone, or like more roaches, so like to have like 60 drones or something.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a roach timing, you can totally get away. It depends what kind of roach timing. If it's roach ravager or if it's just roach, roughly 60 drones either way is good. But you would want to kind of prioritize your gas depending on what it is. 4 gases is great with just roaches. Like 5 or 6 gases is great with roach ravager.
And do you want 6 gas geysers for like heavy lurker play, or do you want to get your 4th base up?
Guaranteed, no matter what. As soon as you take a lurker in, if that's going to be your style, you take all 6 gases. You could be on 4 gases when you throw down your second evo and your hydrogen, and as soon as you throw down your lurker in, you could take all 6 gases. That'd be timed nicely.
Okay, I think that's about it, dude. Thanks for the help and the coaching lesson.
Yeah, man.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, dude. And have a good day at school, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. I've only got one class left, but it's kind of awkwardly timed, but whatever.
All right. Have a good one, man. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, goodbye.
Later, dude.